electricity is now affordable. Cook your beans. Avoid smoke.
Sayaka. Cooking with electricity is now so affordable with the Fumba tariff set by the Electricity Regulatory Authority. With the Fumba tariff, you can now buy up to 70 units of Yaka at a reduced price of 412 Uganda shillings per unit after consuming your first 80 units of the month. For more information, contact the Electricity Regulatory Authority on 0200 506 000.
Oh, Susan, I want to propose to Rose. Yes, and this time I am serious.
Have you guys had sex?
Duh, of course.
And have you had sex without using condoms?
Hey, Nga, you're curious.
I'm more concerned. Are you having sex with other people?
Hey, hello, is this an interview or what?
No, just things you should think about. Do you know Rose's HIV status?
Okay, this is serious. Should I be worried?
It is actually serious. Do you know your HIV status?
I think I am safe. Many times we get into situations that put us at risk of HIV. However, the first step to ending HIV is getting tested and knowing your results.
It's Time Up HIV. Call 0800-211-046 or text 8080 toll-free for more information about how to prevent HIV.
This message is brought to you by Ministry of Health with support from USAID.
Beat the back-to-school hustle today. Pay school fees conveniently using Airtel Money. Dial *185#. Select option 6, school fees.
Select to pay using Bridge Schools, School Pay or Beg Pay.
Select option 1, pay fees. Enter student number. Enter the amount. Enter the PIN number to complete payment. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Welcome back, gentlemen and ladies. We are discussing the legacy of Honorable Iona Kanyomozi and General Eli Tumwine, powerful citizens of this country that have passed on within the last 1 week. And Honorable Eli was buried yesterday. Honorable Iona will be buried on Friday in Tungamo.
Charles, I wanted to correct you a bit. When
Yes.
you say that you must have been resting, today we are retiring 49 generals at State House.
Okay.
Where General Tumwine was supposed to be the senior most.
Wow. It had already been scheduled.
Yes, for 31st. And indeed, by the time General Tumwine passed away, he had been retired documentally. The president had already signed the retirement forms and the certificates.
Okay.
So his family will get the entire package entitled to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable, someone called Masiko sent me a message that Charles Uktu is still up and running, headquartered in Kawempe. And then he said, UPC science stood for Nkomba, meaning thick porridge. That is normal porridge, I guess. And that UPC syndicate stood for Omufunguro, meaning watery porridge. You Nyangole people, the type of references you can make to each other, you need a reconciler like Iona. Let me come to Honorable, Mr. Christopher Lwanga, who is head of ideology. You have heard what the seniors have said. Let's now try to do it more quickly. What your memories of these two giants, and what we should learn from them?
I think I do have some vivid memories, which are, of course, very rare. Some are followed up by research. I happened to have left Uganda in 1988 December for Zambia, and I lived there from that time. to 2006 when you opened the political space, and we came in a big way. But in between, when Comrade Yona Kanyomozi was a Yala representative for Uganda, he had an opportunity of dropping in Lusaka, Long Acres, where Mama Cecilia Ogwala used to come, and she's known there, by the way. Even at one time, she left a book in the church, and it was brought up to the founding father's home. And yet for her, she was a visitor. So Yona Kanyomozi, Mzee Yona Kanyomozi, came to Lusaka, and of course he was not our visitor per se. He was coming to meet the founding father. You can imagine such a situation, seeing a royal cadre coming to meet his boss, who is several kilometers away. It inspires you. Mama Cecilia Ogwala, you used it to inspire us wherever you could come and conquer to Lusaka and converge to Lusaka. Whatever you discussed, we could not tell, because the old man could put them through a prolonged sessions after sessions, real work, real brain power. These people benefited a lot with that experience. And indeed, we can value it. So that was my first time to see Yona at a close distance, which inspired me. And it made me to be so much committed to UPC issues and to start understanding them deeply, despite my uniqueness that I'm a subject of Kabaka, very royal, from Busiro, from Kaboja, everything. So, then when my OB, by the way, you are my OB Kako primary.
Wow.
Yes. When my OB opened the political space.
You guys will have to pay me,
yes,
for making you meet.
I don't know. Me, I was from Biafra House, so I don't know where you were. Maybe Cape Town. So, when they opened the political space, I said, this is what we are longing for. I cannot stay away, and I cannot see UPC campaigning and rebuilding when I'm not helping. So I asked my school manager for permission to work on my leave, and I traveled back to Uganda. And
you were teaching?
Yes, I was teaching.
In Zambia?
Yes, as an expatriate teacher.
Yeah.
Since 1989.
When you went?
To 2006. And I officially married from there.
Ah.
Yes.
That's nice.
So, this is now the situation. I came in, we did our campaigns, especially in Uganda, and something was very strange. Where our brothers fought from, that is where we are more happily welcomed. Our best rally was in Chichusa, in Ruwero. And it was late at night when we were almost breaking the situation. Then I tried to go back to Zambia after campaigns, but that time they had some issues of renewal of the contracts, and I went to Sudan. Then after going to Sudan, Mama Media had taken over the leadership of the party, of course, and she tried to reorganize the party. So I was recalled, and I was told, you can you design something which can create a UPC ideological school? I did that, and I submitted the proposals. The cabinet of the Yonas went through, and I was told to start teaching the staff. Now, from that period of teaching, I interacted a lot with Mzee Yona Kanyomozi, who really honored me, who really respected me, yet it was me who was supposed to respect him more. And wherever you could call him, either to address or to clarify a situation, He was a moving encyclopedia, very free, and he could help a lot and could inspire a lot. So I had that experience of working with him at 6th floor, which was adding to the time I saw him in Lusaka Longe Acres when he's visiting the founding father. So then I started to research more on him. This is where now we have lost somebody very important. These are the youth of the independence struggle who saw UNC in existence and were members of UNC. Then they witnessed the merger of UNC and Uganda People's Union in March 1960. At that age, he was not more than 20. Okay, so they managed to get nurtured. They managed to see the sensitive points of our country, though they may not have interpreted them very well, but at least he represents that generation which is more endangered. Most of them have died anyway, okay? So he was part of that. Then he enjoyed that revolution of the Uganda Development Corporation, which was started more in 1954. The sort of jobs, the sort of exposure he got was very, very important to push him through to the 60s, okay? Then when it came to the 70s, still he went to Kenya, and when he went to Kenya, that is when he became a more active member of Save Uganda movement. And I think he was using, his code name was Owako, okay? And they are credited for having helped a lot the escape of Bishop Yona Okoth. When Archbishop Jonathan Irumu met his unfortunate death, it was now the Yonas at the center of pulling strings and ensuring that you can move here and there. Then still the same Yona, as they came back, they were now the younger Turks with experience, with political exposure from Mosh to Kampala. They are ready to pull strings, they are ready to network, they are ready to do what? And indeed, the military commission government of Paul Mwanga and the current president, they appointed him as a minister of commerce. Somehow UPM wanted to snatch him, but he abandoned and came back to UPC and was adopted as a candidate who made it to parliament. Now, this way of his involvement, networking, was very, very important. Then you are telling, you are winding me about time. Then what do I do now?
I just want you to put in 1 more minute so that I can bring in your colleagues' time.
Now, the other element I can talk about, of course, when he became a Yala MP, he was an experienced person who had seen it all. And finally, since you told us to talk about 2 people, the general, of course, they switched us from power with the going in the bush and that fight.
But we promised you.
But there are some 2 things I would like really to bring out. I don't know who is going to carry forward his legacy. There is this belief of his in cultural nationalism, where an African should identify himself in the way of singing, in the way of dressing. Mama Cecilia Ogwal will remind me here, when Pope Paul visited in 1969, the kitenge which was made, you pull it out today, it can even cost millions and millions. The kitenge which was made for 27th May 1980, you bring it here now, it is real gold. Now, his error...
Can I give an addendum? The kitenge had Dr. Bote on it, that's why. That's why you are hearing the flavor he's
Rwanda, is that why you thought about that?
No, it is beyond that. It is beyond that. It is defining it is defining Uganda. It is defining Uganda. It is defining Africa. It is linking us with the Vatican.
To know some of these things.
And it is linking us with the Murungushi. Obote did not return to Bushenyi on his own steam. He came on the steam of Murungushi Club and the African fraternity and Nadaland fraternity. Okay? Yes.
That's when you and I know that's not the point.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? So, when you see that he believed so much in cultural nationalism, communicating through singing, dressing in a special way, he is failed because that one has not become an institution. I would have loved my Obi when he's putting on his attire. I'm also putting on my attire. As we emulated the Kaunda, as we emulated the Obote's t-shirts, every 27th we could get more and more of them. Okay. That one did not come out. Then the last bit. Of course, when you participate in the struggle, you hold the institutional memory. Both Kanyomozi and the General Tumwine, they hold the institutional memory. Now he opened his institutional memory when he was handing over. And he said he's going to approach his boss and remind him on the timetable, on the urgency of the political succession and political transition, whichever way you would like to color it. Okay?
I knew would not skip that one.
I don't know. Sarah, you want to pick up from that? Sarah, please pick up and...
I knew wouldn't miss that one.
The UBC man has talked of Bushenyi. I think I can pick up from there. I happen to have met the two gentlemen in the 2000s as a youth activist. Both Honorable Kanyomozi and General Tumwine became personal friends. They had different attributes, like the panelists have described them. But for me, for Mzee Yonasan, I will add maybe two things that stand out. One is his signature bow tie.
Yes.
So he was commonly known as the bow tie gentle intellectual. Extremely smart, both upstairs and the physical presence. Neat with the fitness he kept, and he stayed the same. And the second element that stands out is the passion for economic productivity for the country. He had pride for the ordinary people and how they fare economically. And he used to think that NRM, in our conversations, that NRM has lost the productivity base for the citizens. And he used to describe it in this way, that Ugandans have control of borders, the border economy, but we've lost control of banks, we've lost control of hotels, we've lost control of insurance companies, and he was not happy about that trend. So we've lost control of the, I don't know how we would describe it economically, but what the economy in the hands of Ugandans, other than the agriculture, where now maybe we are trying to shift to the parish development model, which I don't know if will take off or not. If you go to the banking sector, all our indigenous banks have withered out. If you go to the hotels, I think most of them are they still have a foreign-owned element or management. And those are some of the things that used to bother him at the individual level. But I think also part of his legacy, we need to be mindful that when he was working with the East African Telecommunications Company, he initiated the building of Communications House. So that is part of his legacy. But away from that, I think many of the other things have been shared. But I happened to share with him at a personal level, and I cherished that friendship. May he rest in peace. General Tumwine, we worked a lot on youth activism with him at a personal level. He became a personal friend. And the earlier days when I had met him and we had started working on youth issues, it's when the incident at court martial happened with the auditors, the news auditors and the lawyers. And we had an appointment later that day. So he detained, I think, for 6 hours. Yes, the lawyers and the auditors and I think Pike.
There was Caleb, there was Pike.
Arias, Lukwago.
There was Lukwago.
William Pike.
William Pike, and then there were some 2 journalists from New Vision.
Yes, so he did that in the morning. 6. And they went to Parliament, and I met him, I think, at about 3. So when I met him, he was disappointed. And of course, it was all over the news, and I was wondering, so we were discussing a presentation at the regional youth meeting that I was convening. So I said, is he in a good mood to discuss the presentation, or I postponed this meeting? So when I called him, he said, no, come to Nomogare. So I went and saw him. And so I found him, and he had just met David Purcell in the lifts at Parliament. So he said when David Purcell entered the lift, he said, General, it is now finished. So he kept wondering, is it really this bad? So when I met him, he said, have you heard the news? I said, yes. Why did you detain the lawyers in the court? He said, I don't know, but can you imagine what Purcell has told me, that it is finished?
That what was finished?
What? No, referring to the statement Jesus said on the cross, it is finished.
Okay.
So, but now, so I don't know in what context Purcell said it, but he was like now detaining lawyers and news editors.
You are finished.
You are finished, something like that. So it bothered him a lot, and so when you see, and that goes into what is in the public domain, and I've been telling myself over this period, I said maybe the world, or maybe some people might never know who people are real by judging them based on a few issues that are in public domain. Because if you look at what's happening and reflect with the person you know, even if they've wronged you, even if you don't agree with what they are saying or doing, but how we react, and maybe as a country we need to reflect. Because we have people on the other extreme, I think we have 2 emerging extremes in our society. The extreme of people who control state organs, and the extreme of those who feel they are oppressed. And then the way we need to bridge that gap of extremism in the country, or else it will get worse. And it's not something we should just condemn. We need to interrogate and say, what is causing this extremism in society?
Someone described it yesterday, I think today, this morning rather, that we only have 2 tribes in Uganda now. The haves and the have-nots, and there is no middle ground.
Yeah, and the gap is widening, the extremism is widening, the indifference is widening, and then maybe the likes of Mama Cecilia who like praying. I don't know how we can deal with this situation, because it will affect all of us in the long run. And but when you compare with the attributes of General Tumwine, the family, I know the family at a personal level. General Tumwine was a godfather to one of my children.
Wow.
The child he helped co-parent just got confirmed 2 months ago. So maybe Christian-wise he had finished that role. May the two gentlemen, gentle giants, rest in peace.
Thank you so much. Honorable Mapenduzi, you take the last bit of it, and then we come back to the issues of how we, as a country, adopt some of these examples and see what needs to be done, especially on the areas where, like Sarah mentioned, growing extremes in this country, and learning from these two gentlemen, whether we have misunderstood General Eli Tumwine, many people have misunderstood him, or whether we do not have the right, the right approach to handling disagreements. For me, I also think that is another area that we can look at. It is possible that people make mistakes, and because you are discharging public duty, and it is not easy, you have a lot of pressure and all that, especially when you are a man or a woman in uniform, or even a political leader taking a decision at a moment. But how do you resolve that disagreement is another thing. Honorable Mapenduzi.
Thank you, my brother Charles, and again, viewers. My mother had warned us before.
Said you will only add.
Yes, and
just
said,
add in 2
exactly.
minutes or 3 something.
I wish you
She
could
said
give
the
me,
ground rule.
I wish you could give me 3 or 4.
3 is okay.
I'll try my best.
3 is okay.
Good to
That's
add.
right. I join my sister Sarah, the people who spoke before, and the rest of Ugandans, and I condole with the families of these two great men. Indeed, when two people of that caliber leave us within a short period, it's bad for a country, like ours. And so all of us feel the pain, and we should be able, the best we can do is to comfort the families, the two families. And so we will, just like Emat Sisi put it, we will continue praying for those families, and their relatives and their, loved ones. Charles, just as you put it, I'll use the words of Mother Teresa. And there are two powerful statements. There are many statements Mother Teresa used, but I'll just pick 2. One, she said that not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And the second statement, which to me is more important, she said, this world is full of great people. If you cannot find one, be one. And so there are those, and for people who have followed what has been going on social media, just like the rest of the people put it, when you see some of the video clips, some of the utterances, you then begin to imagine the kind of society we are in. And so using the words of Mother Teresa, if I am unable to find someone I can call good, at least I have to try to be good. And trying being good means we are able to look at the world soberly and appreciate. And so for me, talking about these two great men, and I'm not going to attempt to put it the way you put it, Mego. But I read a lot of information about the Honorable General Eli Tumwine. But apart from reading, being someone from northern Uganda, and of course you know our history, especially from 1986, the painful period that we experienced. We used to hear a lot of stories. But you see, in this world, you should be able to give yourself time and understand people. Take time, understand people. And so yesterday and today, when I was reading about the life of General Tumine, one of the things I got interested in was to understand his early days as a child, how he grew up, what he went through. I would say God loved him.
Being orphaned at 5 years of age.
Exactly. I would say God loved him very much. Because part of the information I got was that he survived 3 snake bites. And then there was also lightning.
Lightning, which took his brothers.
Which took his brother? I mean, 2 brothers.
2 brothers,
Two
yes.
brothers. And then joining the guerrilla movement, what he went through. I read his stories, how, he survived and how he ended up in Mulago, how he escaped from Mulago, and how he went back. And it's a story that you pick a lot from it. And so sometimes what we go through shape us. And sometimes what we experience make us look at the world differently.
Of course.
And if you are not very much interested or keen enough, you are likely to hurry to make judgment. Because you see somebody and you think you can make judgment immediately. And I'm not going to attempt to make such judgments. But what I pick very clearly is that General Eli loved his job. And sometimes when you love your job, depending on the nature of that job, sometimes you end up being hated. And sometimes when we are in certain positions, even when we love our job, sometimes we are likely to go beyond if we don't restrain ourselves. And I think those are some of the areas where many people have expressed their concern. But even when we express that concern, I think we need to be cautious, because just like General Felix Kulaije put it, it's very un-African to wish somebody death or even try to celebrate.
Actually, they call it dancing on the grave of the dead.
It's very un-African. It's uncultured. And for people who are trying to introduce that culture, to make it prominent in our society, to be very honest, are not doing any good to the society.
Okay.
And I think as a country, we need to exercise that restraint. It's important. Now, you said, okay, looks like you want me to stop. I will stop in the next few seconds. Now, and of course about the Honorable Yona, I have read a lot of very positive things. He equally loved his country, but he also used his knowledge to deeply benefit this country. And it remains a challenge to many of our ministers who are currently holding those offices, that you see here is a gentleman being talked about creatively, bringing things that have impacted and have remained. And so when the Honorable Imad Sisi talks about the cooperative societies and how things have changed, and I think it should provoke us. It should be an inspiration to say, where have we gone wrong? And can we not get back some of these things? And so it's important. We have to pick a lot of lessons from this. So we should be able to look at, of course in life, man naturally is not perfect. We make mistakes. And so if there are mistakes that General Tumine made, and of course for me, some of us who come from the north, we have had a very bitter experience. And we are not going to single an individual and say Honorable Felix Kolaije and so on. We got subjected to a lot of inhuman treatment, which, you know, we demonstrated our bitterness over a period of time through the refusal to give our votes and all that. But you see, life is a journey, and sometimes we have to learn from that. And sometimes, even those who make mistakes, when you give them the opportunity to learn, they do great things and you become friends. And so we need in this country to demonstrate that spirit of talking to one another. I think it was a good thing that the Honorable Megosisi clashed with him, and which later on turned into, you know, a strong relationship, bond. It's good. And so we need to start demonstrating that as a country, that even when we disagree, even when people make mistakes, we still get ourselves back, but also put it plainly that, you know, we need to learn, but also improve and value life. It's important. Finally, Ladit Charles, the very final one. What do we pick from the stories and the kind of behavior some people have demonstrated? I want to agree with the Honorable, with Dr. Sarah. I don't know why I keep on calling you the Honorable Dr. Sarah. Looks like the spirit of politics is
hovering around her.
Is pointing to that direction. Yes. But what I wanted to say is that I think as a country, and especially for those in positions of responsibility, we need to pick some of these as lessons for ourselves. How do we work for our country? But also, how do we keep alive and alert to the things that would tear, that would create this kind of uncontrolled bitterness? How do we begin to work on that? Of course, in life, recently I was reading, and there is somebody who wrote a very interesting book. He said, in this world we are either growing or dying. And for us who are still alive, I think we have a duty to continuously try to help, especially our country. Okay. So we need to know that the terrible mistakes that were made, the bad things that were made during Obote's period, during Tito's period, during Amin's period, and even during this current, you know, government, there are a lot of things that were, you know, that were done, a lot of atrocities. And this is our country. And so we need to have this conversation. We need to look at how to rebuild where you know, trust have been lost and all that. So it's a process. And looking at the life of General Eli Tumine, we learn a lot. We learn about sacrifices. We learn about patriotism. But we also learn how a society can be torn if we are not cautious.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. We are going to do another round for learning the lessons and what we need to do going forward for the country from the two gentlemen, but that we have lost. Allow me very quickly pick some messages from the engagements coming from the viewers out there very quickly, and then I bring in back the Honorable Eli Karuhanga to start us off on that last part of the lessons and how we can use them as a country going forward. Oloka Joseph in Kasese, he says General Tumine was an open person who could tell you directly when it's you, he will say it to you that way. Andrew Tumwesije says, what is great loss to Uganda for our fallen great sons of Uganda? They have done a lot to us. Makerere University, may their soul rest in peace. I haven't understood that well, but Opio Richard from Mukono says, I also agree with Honorable Cecilia. about social media platforms where people use, which people use to celebrate the death of General Eli Tumine. This is not good at all. And as a country, we need to turn to the politics of forgiveness, not hatred. Otherwise, long live UPC as a party, and rest in peace, Honorable Yona. UPC seems to be gaining its route back on road. Luanga,
yes, sir.
I can see you smiling ear to ear on reading that message from Opio Richard from
Even me, I
Mukono.
clap.
We are
Even you clap.
Yes, clap.
That's good. Akleo from Lira says, from Lira, do General Kulaije and Jaja Cecilia know that that one should have been happy? This message was not well crafted. I'm not understanding the construction. What did Museveni feel? What did Museveni say after the death of Idi Amin or Dr. Obote? Why did he say what he said? That's what Akleo from Lira is saying. Wouldn't Ugandan celebrate if Kony dies? Wouldn't they feel happy? That's what he's saying. Then Henry Nansana says, I'm not happy with, he calls them in quotation, quote unquote, goons on social media who spread inhuman words against General Eli Tumine. And finally, Eric Okot Okidi from Gulu says, we should begin teaching children about Africa, not only Uganda. Please, we need to open Pan-Africanism clubs in schools. This will help this country. Let's groom leaders, especially the young ones, for you know that any country to develop, the youth must be ideologically up. That's from Okidi from Gulu. Let's now start winding up. These members have lots to say, but we need to now start winding up because time is closing off on us. There is a message from Honorable Margaret Muhanga, a historical member of this show and a minister now. She says, old is gold. Honorable Cecilia is just a humane character with so much love and fond memories of her comrades. Very brilliant with good counsel to the people who supposedly jubilated General Tumine's death. We need Honorable Cecilia always on behind the headlines whenever we can. We have a lot to learn from her.
Yeah.
Honorable Margaret Muhanga, my sister, thanks a lot for this, and thanks for keeping with us. Now, let me bring back Honorable Eli Karuhanga to start us off on this final bit of it. There are so many things that have been said. We can put them, we can take them and keep them for our lessons. But two things for way forward, and more importantly for a country. And I say that I picked a teaching, I think from, I don't know whether it was from General Eli's Requiem prayer or today's of Honorable Yona Kanyomozi, where one of the priests said that when we pray for the dead, we pray about their lessons and legacies. It is not now so much about them. It is to learn the lessons that they have left and use it to make amends, correct, or something like that. And so Sarah talked about the growing extremes in this country, Honorable Eli, and the worry that, people now, we have a situation now where people are celebrating death of others, and it is worrying, it is growing. And how do we then start reconciling people with each other? How do we ensure that this kind of bad growing culture is nipped before it spreads wild across the country, which probably would cause more problems in the future? Is it possible to resolve some of these things, Honorable Eli?
You know, when all is said and done, we all remain human beings. But every generation has its achievements and its challenges. The young generation who are paid by politicians to spread foul messages about people in unguarded language is something for our generation to worry about. Because as Cecilia said, our generation, and I think Mapinduzi and others who have been contributing, and it's been a wonderful evening hearing them. We have to worry about this young generation which is being paid money to write what they write. It means they have no culture. They do not respect the Africanness in us. It is very un-Ugandan. Ugandans are very good people. All over Africa, people tell you, oh, Ugandans are very good people. But there's a new generation which is coming up, which is getting on social media and spreading poison. But I think sooner or later they will be forgiven, because even when Jesus died, the people who killed him, Jesus said, forgive them, because they don't know what they are doing. So we have to pray for them. I just want to use this chance to tell you the personal testimonies about General Tumwine. And these personal testimonies will show you how we're going to solve some of these problems. The important thing is to love your country. Now, when you love your country, it doesn't mean that you agree or you do the right things all the time. You are human. You can make mistakes. You can have a wrong sense of judgment on an issue. But it is important you love your country. If you love your country, you can't write the things those people are writing. Now, let me give you some personal testimonies about my friend and my brother and my namesake, General Odongtho Prt. About a month and a half ago, I was so honored to have him visit my home. I had a small family occasion, and it was attended by quite a number of people. He spoke at that occasion, at my home here. Next to Cecilia, we are neighbors with Cecilia, Novgorod. And he told us a lot of things. But what I remember he said, for your children, it doesn't matter what you leave them with. What is important is what you leave in them. Inculcate a spirit of patriotism, of Ubuntu, meanness in them, and the rest will be taken care of. That's one thing. He said a lot of very, very fundamental things. And because now in hindsight, because he knew, because I think after this occasion, he didn't have a chance to speak again somewhere else, and I think he went to hospital. And so I was not able to see him after that. But I've been remembering, as you are all talking, a lot of things about him. I think I did a eulogy in papers, and I pointed out how he survived being killed in Lumumba Hall when they were protesting against Amin's soldiers who had come to Makerere, raped some girls and killed some university students, Paul Serwanga and Nanziri and some who was a warden in Africa Hall. And when they went protesting, the soldiers came, attacked ringleaders, and he was one of them. And he just survived by hiding in the wardrobe. Now, that is someone who, as Mr. Mapinduzi just said, had gone through a lot of experiences of death. Lightning, which killed his two brothers when they were with him and hit his stomach. Snake bites in a remote area as a hardest boy, young boy, where the hospital was too far for him to survive 3 times, his poison sting. A bullet in his face, removing his eye, and then he goes back to the bush. Instead of just saying, I've had enough, I don't know what the future of this war is going to be. I'm here in Nairobi, I'm being looked after, I've done my contribution. No, he came back and he was there, again offering himself. The other time, when he showed me how much he really loves our country, I flew with him to Argentina. And when we got in London on British Airways, Princess Diana, the late, the wife of Prince Charles, joined our flight. For some fortune, she sat on the left-hand side of the aircraft in front. General Tumina and I were sitting on the right-hand side on the same line. And the rest of the plane, the first class was taken by her staff. But that day, she had just been making a confession on television on BBC about how she had had a relationship with one of her minders, Captain Hewitt. So it was on BBC, and so when the plane started, they put the news on TV in the plane, and she was the headline. So she was looking on the screen, so were we. And she was making these confessions about an extramarital relationship she had with someone. Hewitt, I think he was Matthew Hewitt or something like that, captain. So I would look at the screen, then look at her, look at the screen, look at her, look at the screen, and then gentlemen, you are embarrassing me, don't look there. So I realized that he was being more human than myself, because my position was now this African boy is looking at me like this. So I now decided not to look that side. So the news were over, and then she too became curious about these two Africans going to Argentina. Argentina is one country which has no black people in the whole of South America. For some historical reasons, not to go into that. So the discussion between me and General was, what are we going to do to depict Uganda to this lady? We must tell her we are from Uganda. We must talk to her about Uganda. It's a very big opportunity. Eli, we must invite her to Uganda. I started saying, a lady who is going through this type of domestic turmoil, how do we bring Uganda in the whole picture? He said, no. Eli, come on, be a man. Hey man, this is a chance for your country. I saw someone whose DNA is Uganda. And then I said, you see, this type of people, you have to have a present. Now, in my briefcase, I don't have anything called a present which I can give Princess Diana. He said, me, I have. I said, get me and let me have a look at it. He said, you see, she's reading your book. I said, she's pretending to read it. You know, she's reading your book. So I'm going to give her a bookmark, but it was in Ugandan colors, and it's painted by me, and it has Uganda, and at the other bottom, there's UPDF. And he showed it to me. It was so beautiful. But then I said, this is like a small toy. How do you give this to Princess? So he said, no, she's reading a book. I tell her it's going to be a bookmarker. And this is a very interesting story, because now I agreed. So once I agreed, he said, now it's your duty to give it to her, because you have a lot of words. You can talk a lot. You are very eloquent. So I said, okay, I will take the challenge. Then I started growing cold feet. How do I now approach her? So behind her was a PA, a lady. So I kind of winked at her, and she said, what is it? I said, so I stood up, I went and talked. I said, we are from Uganda. The gentleman next to me is a general. He's a big person in the Ministry of Defense and what. And we have a present for Princess Diana. He said, okay, thank you. I'm sure she would be interested to know something about that. So I sat down, he was so anxious, so I told him. He said, you see? So the lady delayed to communicate to her, like all PAs do. And he was becoming very jittery. He said, I don't think you told her. Then afterwards, the lady Princess Diana went to use the bathroom, came back, radiant with her beauty, and the lady told her. So before she sat, she kind of said, you're from Uganda? She said, yes. And I said, this is our Minister of Defense. And he said, wow, very nice to meet you. And said, yes, you are going to Argentina? I said, yes. I said, I almost wanted to say sorry about the picture, but then
was it you who had done it?
I was sitting at the window. So he came over to also stood up, and she said, Uganda is a beautiful country. He said, we would like to invite you to Uganda. He said, yes, I'm planning. There is a place on Entebbe Road, there is a place, what's the name? There is it's a medical center on Entebbe Road, near Kajansi, where people who are sick go there for being, either terminally ill, they go there for being taken care of. And it is sponsored by her. Thank you very much. That's the place. So she said, I'm planning to come in January to visit Uganda to open that center. My God. Then General Tumini said, I have a present for you. So he gave the present. She was so happy. She looked at it. She said, it's a very good design. We sat down. Let me tell you. I think, so now she said, she told the PA to get our contact and that she will be coming to Uganda in January. And then on our way back, we flew again with her on the same flight. Now we were like comrades. And we really concretized the plans. But she died immediately after that.
Oh dear.
So she never.
Okay.
But General Tumine told me his DNA. Now let me tell you something else.
Now time also.
General Tumine, when you go to another personal testimony, I I went to his house. I had never been to his house. I went to his house not long ago. When I got to his house, I was very surprised about his house. I think he had built it immediately when he came back from the bush. But the mabati were old, the house was very small, and General Tumwine, Minister of Defense, Commander of the Army, blah, 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 he was living in very, very humble circumstances, including his furniture. And I was very surprised. Surprised to me, the house was full of women, widows, many children, and he was paying, at that time, I think, school fees for about 68 children. And he pulled out a book. At that time, he showed me I'd given 900 cows to widows, to people who had nothing to do with him. I could not believe, because people, you don't understand our culture in Akure. Giving you one cow makes you a brother. It is like you have made lifelong relationship. Even your clan loves that clan. It is a long story, but General Tumwine's 900 cows shocked me, completely shocked me, because he could have used those cows to build a very nice house for himself.
Okay.
He didn't. Then I went back. I want to give you another personal testimony about General Tumwine.
Honorable, you need to wind up. We have now hit midnight.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry
There was a woman, and an old woman whose land had been taken by Korean Bank. I had this story today. He went to Korean Bank with this woman, asked the Indian who was running Korean Bank in Rosheri branch, and asked, do you have a title for this woman? The Indian man said yes. He said, can I have a look at it? The man brought it out and gave it him. He got the title and gave it the woman, and he told her to go with her title. So the man called the owner of the bank. I don't know whether this story is true or not, because I think the Indian man called Mr. Sudhir, and Mr. Sudhir said, who is that? When the man went out, they said, General Tumwine. He said, no. Leave that. I think that's a bad deal. Leave it. But what I want to tell you, is that General Tumwine would leave Kampala, drive to both that woman's problems and try and solve it without using the legal method, but by using brute human force that would solve a problem for an old woman instead of dying back. I can tell you many, many stories about General Tumwine.
Okay.
But his heart was as soft as you cannot imagine. And yet, on the outside, he looked like as if he was a tough nut to crack. I want to tell you lastly, very short now, brief. During COVID, as president of the Private Sector Foundation, I had an opportunity to be sitting with cabinet ministers to plan on behalf of, I would represent private sector, how we can solve the COVID problem. Let me now say this, because I have not taken an oath of secrecy about cabinet issues, because I'm not a member. So I can disclose to you. I could not believe, because he would give a report, he was Minister for Security. He would be giving his part of the story as Minister for Security. But then we also had an attack of foot and mouth disease. And again, under Prime Minister Uganda, he would come, but the way he would attack his colleagues in NRM, the ministers, his colleagues, you would think they will never greet him again. Because he would leave the last thing you can accuse Tumwine of was being a diplomat. He was not a diplomat at all. That is why it became a problem for him. And so, and such an is a target. Because in this world, you need a bit of diplomacy. But if he believed in anything, until he gets it, until he annoys you, then Tumwine was a pure pure soldier.
Okay.
A general whose DNA was UPDF, whose love was Uganda.
Thank you so much.
Those who hate him have a right to hate him because he didn't give them a chance. He just wanted to give Uganda a chance.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. And Honorable Cecilia, way forward for Uganda from these lessons. How do we resolve some of these sticking issues?
I don't think I have much to say about the behavior or the character or the functionality of military personnel, because I know them in their civilian relationship. But what I can say is that the zeal for your work, the zeal for your party, the zeal for whatever you do should not make you crush people along the way. We should all exercise self-restraint as much as possible, because I see some of us sometimes political ideology tend to drive us too far, and we forget that it's the country we need to protect. It's the country we should be more concerned about. And that's why, for me, my brother Yoweri has never liked what I say about him. And he's right, because I tell him as it is. But one thing I will never do is to run him down when I'm out of the country, because trying to run down the head of state of your country, you're actually running down your country, because people outside the country are not concerned about Museveni, they are more concerned about Uganda. So we should not go and wash our dirty linen outside the country. So let us be as patriotic as possible, defend our country, but at the same time try to behave as if we behave like children of the same parents. I think that is what I really want to appeal. As far as Yona is concerned, really, what I saw in Yona in Moshi Conference, 1969, which led them to choosing Yusuf Lule as the leader of the uniting group. I've always condemned Yona with all that brilliance you have. How could you not have exercised some realistic and practical approach in choosing who was to lead that difficult period? But that was a situation where Ugandans were trying to find the best way of moving forward, because apparently there was pressure on Tanzania, pressure all over, that people did not want to vote. The people that supported the liberation movement did not want to vote to come back as the head. And so they were trying to improvise. But as a result, we ended up with a crisis. But seeing Yona at the forefront of Mosi Conference, I saw Yona at the forefront in uniting the multi-party group, that is the political group that looked at things differently from that of the militaristic group, that's the NRM group. And we formed a powerful team of debate in the Constituent Assembly. And it wasn't difficult for us to find people like Yona Kanyumozi, Patrick Mwanda, the patriotic people. Patrick Rubahayo was still with us, to lead that team to make sure that we united Uganda behind a cause for return of multipartyism. And that we needed people like him, we needed people like Francis Bwenje, we needed people like Robert Kitariko, to be able to put the DP and the UPC together in order to drive the cause for return of multi-party democracy. And Yona was at the forefront. I was happy to find my brother in charge today, Dr. Besigye, because he remembers that regardless of what has happened between UPC and FDC and other parties, but UPC was very much at the center at the formation of the FDC to make it crystallized into a party, which we see today. So we cannot forget people like Yona Kanyomozi, the late Patrick Mwanda, the late Dr. Kulepak, the Ben Wacha who is still with us, Abdul Katuntu. These were the core team that we gave to the FDC to give them the ideological form that they have used up to today. So that needed a person like Yona. And actually most of us wondered whether Yona was FDC or still UPC. Because UPC reached a moment when it was so fragmented. I still fragmented anyway. But some of us have moved on, even when I have moved on, and I've told them I've contested to come to Parliament on FDC ticket. Even Parliament publishes me as a UPC MP, so I don't know what to do. so now, you know, and even that's why I even clash with Eli Tumwine most of the time in the debate, because I tell him, why do you talk as if there was no legitimate government in place? So that is the situation I face. People have never believed me that I have moved on. I've left UPC behind. I love UPC, but I've left it behind. I've moved on, and I'm pursuing a child whom I see the UPC DNA in it. And so please don't condemn, don't condemn me. But I still love UPC. People have never believed me if I say I have never been Miss Uganda. They say no, but you were the first Miss Uganda. I tell them never. They don't believe. So I have moved on, and I said, okay, I'm beautiful. Yes, fine, I'm beautiful. I was the, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that look, political parties are just to make us operate institutionally. Institutionalized politics is beautiful so that we can collaborate together. Let us define our ideological boundaries, but within our ideological boundaries, we must be united. Okay. We must understand where we are going. And that's why I find it difficult to condemn the DP, to condemn other parties, when we ourselves, within our own selves, we are not united. So let's start from unity within our own political family in order to plead for the entire Uganda to be united. So there's a lot for us to learn from our departed brother, father, and friend. There's a lot to learn. And personally, the life of Tumwine has challenged me a lot. The life of Yona, whom I related with at a very close range, has also challenged me. I've missed a mentor. And definitely I know I've also missed a prayer partner, my dear friend, Eli Tumwine. So I still plead with people outside there. Even if you hated UPC, I think there's something good Yona Kanyomozi has done for you. Okay. And I plead with people outside there, if Eli Tumwine has hurt you, as you heard my son Mapenduji has said, we people in the north, if you see a person like me not even eating meat, because I think Kulaje drove my father's cows, our cows to the west, and yet he's very innocent. I'm sure the Westerners never saw any cows from the north, but because our cows were taken during the regime of Museveni's government, for us we believe they took them. So you may have your bitterness, but let me tell you, let that bitterness not be personalized. Yeah. You know, I think that is what I would want to share with the people of Uganda. God bless us.
Thank you so much. And there is a gentleman watching you called Patrick, and he said, Mama Cecilia, you share 3 things with me. My mother's name. You were roommates in London in the late 60s. 3, you both live in Bugolobi, and you are friends. You are still friends. And he said, when I went into the private sector, you gave me my first transaction as a middleman to transact with your Lira Millers, and I will always be eternally grateful.
That's a good one.
And then he said, what we should focus on is to ensure that the economic bottlenecks that we first learned from late Yona Kanyomozi, we should challenge ourselves to ensure that we modernize our country. Thank you very much. Luanga, final one. Let's now run very fast because we have overshot our time. lessons for Uganda, what we should do, uniting Uganda, and...
Actually, the entire Uganda has been taken back to the classroom by these departed souls of our brothers. I will start with Comrade Yona Kanyomos. Yona Kanyomos experienced some of the worst pressure during Obote II government. A leading multinational led by Tiny Roland, Ronro, was at it wanting to monopolize our marketing of produce, coffee, cotton, and they exerted pressure on Kanyomos. I think with some bread and butter on the table, Kanyomos rejected and reported it to his boss and the government that I'm under pressure. Tiny Roland wants to take over coffee marketing board, lint marketing board. I'm not accepting. At the time he was reporting that, even his boss, Dr. Apollo Middleton Obote, was under serious pressure from Tiny Roland to give a tender for constructing an oil pipeline from Nairobi into Uganda. And not only a tender, also our government to guarantee the construction, whatever losses, where to secure money. So our patriotic government decided to do issues in the interests of the country. But Tiny Roland insisted that you are even going for December elections. I can make things more convenient for you. UPC government stood on its guns and refused it. Today, I don't know how many people can resist such temptations. That's why I'm saying we are back to classroom because of our departed souls. Then our brother, Eri Tumwine, that last statement he left, my obi, don't take it as a joke. All countries which have had revolutions, they have reached a point where they bring in transition. Cuba enjoyed Fidel Castro from 1959. Somehow a succession had to take place because the Comrade Fidel Castro commandant, his rifle was giving away old age and what have you. The brother came in, and now Cuba has moved in. During this pandemic, we have seen the internationalism of Cuba in confronting COVID.
Okay.
So, what Eri Tumwine started, that let us have a conversation about political transition. It is not a joke, it is very serious. All these people who were pioneers in the bush, add on 40 years. Whether he was 20 in the bush, now is 60. Whether he was 30 in the bush, now is 70. Whether he was 40 in the bush, now is 80.
Okay.
So who is going to take over?
Okay.
That is what we should have a conversation, a discussion.
Honorable Kulaije is still thinking.
Yeah.
Honorable Mapenduze.
Just very quickly. 3 things. Number 1,
very quickly.
Sanity demands that we shouldn't quarrel with the dead. And I think we need to start reflecting deeply where we are going as a country. I was having a chat with a friend.
That's number 1. 2.
Number 1,
Let's
yes.
go to number 2, 3.
Yeah, just quickly. I was having a chat with a friend this evening, and he said, you know, if the people who are behaving extremely today are put in the position where General Eli was, how would they behave?
Okay.
And I think we need to reflect deeply. 2, those in position of responsibility, those in authority, when we see some of these utterances and behaviors and all that, we shouldn't rubbish them. I think we need to take this seriously and begin to look. We need to find ways of addressing the root causes.
Okay.
There are definitely serious issues, and you're not going to stop people from behaving the way they would.
Yeah.
Some people will continue failing to restrain themselves.
Need to find out
but
why they are doing
yeah,
so.
exactly. There is
Finally.
need for us to go deeper and try to deal with the root causes. That's all I'll say.
Oh,
because
okay.
you are really in a hurry.
Yes,
I have to stop there.
You see the clock, Sarah.
Yeah. I will just build on my neighbor's point to say that the reaction of society has also reasons that we should not dismiss. The anger coming out of the last elections, the kidnaps, the Kampala executions of 54 people, the missing persons, long detentions without trial, without charge. Society is hurting. So when you see people acting the way they act, I think for me the leaders should reflect on their actions, on their conducts, on the way they treat those that hold different political positions other than theirs. If we keep dismissing issues and apportioning blame, the society is ours to lose. I think there is a need for leadership in this country. May the gentle souls rest in peace.
Thank you very much. Finally, Honorable Kulaije.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, colleagues on the panel. I think we need to help our young people to have values as a country. I remember when I was here, if you remember in 10th Parliament, I asked what are our national values, and nobody would state them except the woman MP from Rukunjiri, who gave what was highlighted in 2013. And I saw even the speaker was taking notes, so they're not known. It's important that we must have national values to act as a moral compass for all of us. Secondly, we need to pick good lessons from these two giants. Yonakanyomozi, decency, brains, and the focus when you have an assignment to do. Similarly, we need to pick the patriotism Tumwin exhibited, the zeal and love for his country, the love for UPDF that was unmatched, and the big heart both of them had. I would normally say if you go out to look for the good things in a person, you get 1 million of them. But if you get out to look for the bad ones, you get 1,000. So the choice is yours, what you pick.
Thank you very much. Thank you a lot, Honorable Felix Kulaije. Thank you, Mr. Luanga. And thanks, Imat Atat Cecilia Ogwal. Thank you a lot to, thanks a lot to Honorable Mapenduzi and Sarah Birete. And of course, thanks a lot to Honorable Eli Karohanga, Senior Counsel who joined us through Zoom. Thanks to all and to the families. Incidentally, journalism is an interesting profession. It brings you in crosshairs with all these people seated here, for example. The things that I remember, I visited Honorable Yona, invited me twice to his home and to talk to him. And one of those moments when I thought he was an old man, he decided that I found him when he was going to do his exercise. His home is, when you leave his house, then immediately you get a very steep hill. And he said, we are going to first walk up the hill, then we come back and then we do the interview. And we walked up and I was wondering, will this old gentleman move up the hill? And he was very strong. And then about 6-7 years ago, later, of course, I used to invite him a lot and would enjoy discussions with him. Even recently, I think he came here as well. We had him here at one time and on other shows. And then General Tumine, the one that I've not forgotten, some few years ago, we met and he invited me and we talked from 11 a.m. up to 7 p.m. with his camera, He took my pictures. And we sat, we had breakfast, we had lunch, we had evening tea, and we talked a lot about journalism, about the constitution, about politics. And he said, you are my friend, and we should be friends. And then he gave me a number that he said, this one is my hotline. So many journalists would fail to find it hard to get him, but for me, I would call him and find him, even when he became a minister. So I salute these two gentlemen, and someone called Bill said, these two gentlemen, both Yona and Honorable Eli, were all available and accessible to young people, and we will remember them for that. May they rest in peace, and may they be granted eternal glory. To you out there, thank you very much. And if there is anything we can accept, is that this agreement is part of life, Uganda. And this is to our young comrades, our young friends. Whether you're on social media or on conventional media, what we call legacy media, kindly, let's disagree, but with a purpose. Let's disagree, but with respect. Let's tolerate each other. This country is for all of us. There is no need, absolutely no need, to celebrate people who are sick, people who are on their deathbed, people who are old, people who have lost loved ones. No need at all. It doesn't add anything. If you want to really quote me on that or the show, please go ahead. It is needless. We don't need to take the country into that direction. We can disagree, have different parties, but continue being one Uganda, like the FDC say, one people.
You can actually add and say that our tradition considers such people as light dancers.
Whatever they are, but let's have values, and we will be a better country. Good night. God bless you all. Till next week. Bye-bye.